Greetings, my friends. Welcome back to the Home Slice. Welcome to this, the final of my first EDC tournament. I'm really stoked on this. I'm really stoked on these knives, and we're going to carry each of these for 1 week. You guys already know what they are, and I've already given my thoughts on both of these models. But just for reference, if you're just joining us, today we're facing off the CJRB Pyrite. I've been digging the Pyrite. I love the smooth action. I feel like CJRB does an excellent job on their button locks and the release, and the actuation of it is incredible. I love the slot for thumb or for reverse flick. I love that you have got a nice wide blade, very utilitarian, thick enough to be confident in, thin enough edge to be satisfying. Really enjoying this alternate sort of reverse Tanto Warncliffe version of the CJRB Pyrite. I love the handle. This handle is close to perfection for me. It's rounded. It's got little engineering triangles milled out of the stainless steel, so it feels kind of like titanium. It's just a thing of beauty, this handle. I love what they've done on this handle so much. But it is going to have its work cut out for it, because today it is facing off against a favorite of mine, the discontinued, unfortunately, Civivi Imperium folder. This thing is in Nitro-V versus the Pyrite is coming to us in AR-RPM 9, a steel that is misnamed, as Dr. Laren Thomas has pointed out to us, but is basically a spray form version of 9CR18 MOV steel, which means that you have smaller carbides, sort of in your 440C performance class, but very much improved toughness and a finer carbide structure for a keener edge that is less prone to do any microchipping. However, that's taking on some excellent Civivi Nitro-V that's about 12/1000ths of an inch behind the edge. So this knife has a bit more of a thick taper. It's more of what you'd consider a gentleman's knife, although I think that label very silly. It's got a nice little reverse grind right here, or swedge, that's really long to a super useful point, but just about the perfect proportions of what I like. I like skinny, narrow knives. That's my jam. I love a teeny little thumb ramp that like they've done here. I'm okay with a forward grip. I'd prefer to have a little more edge personally, but they've done a good job with this. And this is an amazing amount of blade length for utility versus carry size. But I really like the mechanics of the Pyrite. I really like the thin geometry of the grind and the sort of robust work knife feel that you have, more so than a small liner lock like this. This version of the Imperium came with a front flipper, and there's carbon fiber shred and silver flake inlaid in some resin here. So a really cool, unique handle. I've really enjoyed the aesthetic of it, and the action is pretty wild. It can be opened just about any way you can imagine. You can't really, I guess, traditional flipper it very well, but the front flip is amazing. Everything you do with the thumb stud feels really solid, even your reverse flick. It's a really fun knife. Both of these have portions of the edge where it will whittle a hair. Both of them feel very good. I've stropped them each on stroppy stuff, 1 micron diamond emulsion, and then down to 0.25 micron, and then 0.1 micron gunny juice. So we're going full mirror edge. I went dual grit edge for all of the original episodes of this tournament, but I thought for the two that are facing off for the title of best in this tournament, we should test not only how they take an aggressive dual grit edge, but how these steels perform when taken to an ultra fine edge, because that may tip the scales one way or another. I did a best reading of both of them. I have not watched it. The reason for this is that I find that I'm losing some of the joy of sharpening to my best machine. You know, you do all these stones and then you test it and you get a bit fixated on the number and you're like, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. And then you keep working and working and working. You spend tons of time on an edge, and sometimes you overround it. Sometimes it gets a little bit where you've lost aggression, or you just took too long in the process and you don't enjoy it anymore. And I'm not really a fan of that dynamic. I really want to sharpen because it's fun and because it's a joy. But I really value the validity of the data that the BESS gives you. The BESS is such a good when it's operated properly, way to tell if you've left any flexible damaged metal out there at the edge apex or if you've cleaned it all up. So what I've opted to do for the moment, and until further notice, if I enjoy this, I'll continue doing it, is I do my normal sharpening when I'm pleased with just the edge performance. Then I do a blind best test. I'll watch it at the end of the video and react to it, and we'll see if my thoughts on the real world use actually line up with the number that the best would have given me, and you guys will find out together with me what the original best readings of these knives were. Anyway, these are two excellent knives, and let's let them start duking it out. They've already conquered many other excellent knife models, but here we are at the final Pyrite versus Imperium. Let's see who in my book is the ultimate winner of this tournament. Okay, I'm back after one final week of carry, and I have a few closing thoughts on these tournament champions. They're both worthy competitors, man. They beat out some of the fiercest competition. Really like the AR RPM 9 steel, and I really like the handle design and the slimness on both of them. Pretty narrow designs, fairly skinny in the pocket, although of course the Pyrite does take up a little bit more square footage. So a few things that sets one apart from the other. I really like the dual grit edge. This RPM 9 steel took on an incredibly aggressive and kept a really aggressive dual grit edge throughout the use on the first time I carried it. I really like the handle and the fit and the feel of the handle. And the Wharncliffe blade shape really has a cool look to it, I think, in my opinion. It's kind of a stylistic knife to me. Unfortunately, carrying it this time, I sharpened these down to the Sharpening glass 8K and then took them back to a Civivi 3 to 5 micron diamond stone. And I know that's a bigger particle size, but I wanted to bring back a little bit of the bite of the edge, but leave a nice mirror finish. I find the Sharpening glass 8K has this nice deburring effect on it, and as I'm going up through the stone progression, sometimes I like a traditional water stone that has a little bit more give, because it sort of wraps the edge just a tiny bit and takes away some of that damaged metal. But then I came back to it and hit it on a 25% concentrate Civivi 3 to 5 micron diamond water stone. And the reason for that is it's a finishing stone. It's low concentration of diamonds so that it's pretty gentle with the edge. But then at the same time, it has this effect of restoring aggression in a really pleasing way, so that even though you've got a fine edge, you've got a lot of bite. With that edge on both of the knives at 17 degrees per side, a clear winner emerged. And I have to say that although the AR RPM 9 held that edge and took that edge fairly well and was whittling hair in portions of the edge, the clear winner was the Nitro-V in this Civivi Imperium.
Coming into this live voiceover, I do not know what this best test is going to yield. I would guess this thing is sitting somewhere between, I don't know, 150 and 175. It seemed like it took the fine edge and was quite aggressive, but it didn't quite achieve that level of cleanness and keenness that I would have hoped. Here I am closing my eyes. So I tried to do the test as slowly as I could. And, 163. Oh, okay, my guess is right on par. Wow, the best machine does line up pretty darn well. I'm actually a bit surprised. That's so cool. I'm feeling for the button because I don't want to look at it. Okay, Civivi Imperium, based on performance, on a blind guess, I would guess this at 130 to 140. It felt better deburred and very smooth, but it still had a bit of that real, like, crisp aggression that you get from a diamond stone, so it didn't feel smoothed out. Like, sometimes I feel like you need to strop things to death to get them really, really low on a best machine, and I don't think it was down under 100, but we'll see. Looks like we're up over 100 and 150. Okay, so just over my guess. They're actually quite similar. So that's funny because this sharpening progression has similar best readings, but I could definitely feel a performance difference in the hand, but fairly close on both of my guesses. Inside the range I guessed on the Pyrite, outside on the Imperium.
This thing has held such a crazy fine edge. I don't know if it's still shaving, but it has been phenomenal. Still skipping some hairs off there, and clearly took the keener, more aggressive edge and held it longer. I like the button lock quite a lot, but I also like the novelty of a front flipper. This is my first front flipper, and the action on this Civivi is incredible. You can open it any way you want to. The final thing that's really a clincher for me in the end is I'm really a sucker for a little bit more edge length. I like that practicality of being able to do more. And the Imperium does edge out. And the Imperium does edge out the CJRB Pyrite by just a little bit on the edge length front. I also really like, and this is going to probably unfairly weight these EDC tournaments, but I really like a slim profile. I like to put it in there and have it be as close to just having a pin in my pocket as possible. But the Imperium here, they've done a great job of like not too thick, not too thin, really thin behind the edge. I like this blade finish a little bit better. It doesn't show gunk and dirt quite as easily as the stonewashed finish on this. And the last thing is that I did find that when my hands were really dry, I could have some problems gripping the knife, especially like when I get up in the morning for some reason, my hands are really dry. And I did drop the Pyrite once or twice just because these stone tumbled stainless, they're beautiful handles, and the shaping is done so well that if you've got a secure grip, you don't need to worry about it. But I did find it was a little bit more slippery for some reason than this rounded resin with the shredded carbon fiber kind of like coming out at interesting angles. This is not the grippiest handle, but for some reason, I didn't have any problems retaining it in the hand. There's a little bit of nice jimping there. There's a really generous, like good shaping on this knife. It is rounded where this one is flat. And I'm not sure, to be honest. I really love the fit and finish on the Pyrite. They did an excellent job with the chamfering, all the edges, and scooping out this little finger groove, and it feels great. But I have to say, in actual use, wet hands, dry hands, I actually found that the handle on this Imperium actually suited my hand and my grip and use style a little bit better than the Pyrite. So, the Civivi Imperium and Nitro-V is going to be the winner of round 1 of this tournament, my first EDC tournament. There'll be some more tournaments to come.
So this is the final roster, the winner, the Civivi Imperium, and these are all the blades that have competed in this hollow grind versus flat grind through lots of different steels and variations tournament. Thanks for watching. You can pause here if you want to examine the results more thoroughly.
And I'll just transition here because I've been wondering what to do because I'm going to sell off some of these blades, but I've sort of wanted to decide how can I decide which ones to keep and which ones to sell. And I think I've developed like a awards ceremony where I'll share the ones that I have a specific use for and like for a specific thing. And I'll let you know what those purposes are. And then we'll share which of these knives from this whole tournament made it into sort of like a slot of like permanent in the rotation unless something else kicks it out.
First off, I have to honorably mention the Spy 27 Manix 2. It would likely remain in my ownership and rotation as a really good work knife. In fact, I used it for some really rough work in my bathroom just after I tested it, actually cutting and removing moldy caulking from my fiberglass shower because I trusted it to do that sort of job. However, this Spy 27 Manix 2 actually belongs to Sal Glesser, and I've got to return it to him after my testing for them to do some Catra work on it. The 3 from this group that I have deemed like I am going to keep for a slot in my EDC are the Pyrite, Federalist, and Imperium. So as far as the Pyrite goes, I really like one of my work knives to have a really high fidget factor and streamlined design, and for right now, the Pyrite really fits that for me. I like to have a couple of knives for the weekend that are really light carry and slicey, and the Kershaw Federalist really hits that balanced design, small carry footprint, and a really good toothy edge in that CPM 154 steel. Finally, I reserved a couple slots for like your more sort of formal knives that you would carry to a more formal occasion or around the office or something like that. And I think the Imperium really fits that. It's not super, super durable, but it's a really like kind of elegant, like classy knife. And I like to have one of those around. So these could get displaced by future contenders of future tournaments, but for the moment, they are safe in their standing as keeper knives for me that I will use into the future.
If you want to catch the last episode where I faced off all the semifinal competitors, I'll put a link on screen now. For all the rest of you, I'll say peace out from the home slice. You guys take care. Bye.